Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another great episode. We have got my good buddy Shan Twit joining us. We're going to dive into some excellent stuff all about entry and exit routes and what makes good ones, what makes bad ones, what you can do on public land and private land. Sean is a wealth of knowledge. I'm sure you guys know. We've had him on several times now, and always great catching up with him. We get into a little bit with the workshop that we have coming up here on August 9th and 10th. I hope we can see you guys there. We got a few spots left open, so make sure you get a hold of Sean if you're interested in coming. But man, we really got into a lot of great topics on this one, and there's a lot of great knowledge. So make sure you got your notebooks out, pen and paper, and this one's got some good stuff in it. I want to thank our sponsors that make this show possible: Osseo Gear, Lone Wolf Custom Gear, Timberwolf Supply Company, and Painted Arrow Outdoors. Make sure if you're looking for some new camo this year, you check out Osseo. It's top of the line, lifetime warranty, and the best customer service in the industry. Make sure you use code RUNGUN20 for 20% at checkout. If you're interested in self-filming this year, make sure you check out Painted Arrow Outdoors and use code RUNANDGUN15 for 15% at your checkout. We've got some good stuff coming down the line. Recently was catching up with our good buddy Cody DeQuisto at Lone Wolf Custom Gear, and we're trying to line something up with them. We're approaching our 3-year anniversary, so I'm trying to get some stuff together for a good giveaway for you guys. So stay tuned for the details on that. We've got some shows coming up, if I'm not mistaken. I believe we've got the Whitetail Roadshow is kicking off next weekend in Georgia. And then right after that, the following weekend is Virginia. Then we've got Ohio and finishing up in Iowa. And I will be there at the Iowa show. I hope if you guys are local to there, I hope you can make it. We'd love to see you and come holler at us. Really stoked for this season, man. We've got, just a little follow up on what I've had going on lately. Just been scouting a ton, getting adjusted to Iowa. It's been just an amazing move. I'm so happy that we did it. Loving life here lately. So been scouting a ton, got into some cool stuff. I can't wait to put some boots on the ground in there, and I'll keep you all up to date. But let's get into our quote of the week. This week is from Les Brown. Les says, "Too many of us are not living our dreams because we are living in our fears." I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's definitely the truth. Fear is actually a cool little add-on to that. Fear is false evidence appearing real. And if you just think about it that way and just move forward, that's where the growth is. And that's where the life that you have in your dreams. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Let's get into today's episode with our good buddy, Shan Twit. So what is going on, brother? Welcome back. You are one of our very few guests that have been on 3 times. I'm honored to have you again. And what's going on? What's the world looking like in Mr. Shan Twit's day-to-day nowadays?
Wrapping up. Just 5 days ago, I put in food plot number 11 this year, more food plots than ever before. Touched up mineral sites, making sure the cameras are fully loaded with a fresh set of batteries as we head into August here in the next few days. A lot of work, a lot more work than I usually put in on any farm. So a lot of farming work, but it's all done as of I think 5 days ago. And then just trying to maintain my sanity with the 1.5-year-old and the 5-year-old and the wife. So, plus work, it's a lot.
Yeah, man. No, I got to say you have been extremely busy this year. And I imagine a lot of it has to do with our preparation for the workshop coming up here soon. And super, super excited to do that. I'm not so excited about driving down to Kentucky, but other than that, I'm so stoked to get down there and finally get to see the farm. I wish we had, a chance to get together and turkey hunt. It would have been great. And I apologize for not making my way down there sooner. But yeah, I can't wait to see you. And guys, this one's going to be really tailored to honestly, entry and exit. I know Sean is an expert at this topic, and I couldn't think of a better guest to have on to really dive deep into what makes a great entry and exit, and maybe the diversity between a private entry and exit, private farms versus public. He has a lot of experience doing that when he was younger as well. So, we'll dive into that, and then we're going to cap things off with our a little recap of what's going to go on for our workshop. And I hope that I can see a couple of you guys that are listening to this. Me and Sean are really excited. This has been almost like 9 months in the making, I guess.
Yeah, about 8-9 months. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of wild. So, yeah, let's get into, I think we should start off with like your journey as a younger guy. You grew up, in Wisconsin, correct? And, maybe get into like, I didn't know when I first met you, but you did a ton of public land hunting when you were younger. And access was a huge part of your success. So maybe dive into like how you got into creative access and, where your pitfalls were and what got you to where you are today.
So when I first started bow hunting back in 1990, I had to keep everything really, really light because I had a little cheap BMX bike. And luckily we had a piece of public hunting ground about 2 miles from my parents' house. And in the same neighborhood was a good buddy of mine named Keith. And we would hook up and single file just ride all the way down to the airport. And it was walk-in access only. But unfortunately that meant people would walk. They'd walk their dogs, they'd ride their horses, there's a lot of traffic. So, which is normal, the deer got used to that, but it bothered me more than it did the deer,
Yeah.
if human activity intrusion is something that happens on a daily basis, it's not a big deal, but it bothered me. But we got really good at trying to evade people, dog walkers, horse riders, to find these little honey holes that the big deer would bed and feed in. But it was, I was mobile hunting before it was like a thing. I mean, we're talking 30 years ago.
What were you using back then? What was your
I was
go-to?
using the Lone Wolf, the sit and climb.
Okay.
Yeah, like one of the original climbing stands that Lone Wolf made.
Yeah.
And then I would just bungee cord my backpack, a little fanny pack actually, to the back of that. And then I would just carry my bow in the front, and pedal in the public ground.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But we saw some really big deer. It was a bow only area, so.
And bow hunting really wasn't that popular back then, I imagine. I mean,
not in that area now.
What year are we talking?
We're talking 90, 91, 92.
Okay.
89, 90, 91, 92. Yeah. A long time ago. I'm old.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, I started off with the climber as well, but my dad always talked about using a mountain bike to go. We had a piece of public where I grew up that was the same thing. I can really relate to the horses and dog walkers and all that. Like they were, hard on the trails. So I learned quick at a younger age to like kind of back up off of those trails and really try to find out where people are and getting away from people. And that's where I always ran into deer at. So, I mean, when did you this is kind of an open-ended question, but when did you kind of adapt the water access? Like how many years went by until you realized like, hey man, I'm missing something here. And you talk about being silent and deadly. I mean, doesn't get much better.
Water is the ultimate access. Yeah. So eventually, my parents sold that house, my childhood house, and then we built a house on the Wisconsin River.
Okay.
And from my parents' house to the closest dam, it was 13 miles. So I had a 13-mile stretch of phenomenal wood duck, black duck, mallard, teal. I mean, waterfowl hunting, goose hunting. And there was dozens and dozens and dozens of islands in that stretch. A lot of the land owned by the Consolidated Paper Mill Company and open to public hunting. And while setting up decoys before sunrise, we would hear deer splashing around the corner and going from island to island. I thought, gosh, when you're really young, I mean, I knew deer could swim, but like, water is not a barrier to deer at all. Their hair is hollow. They float really well. They're extremely athletic. They swim very fast. And water has never been and never will be a barrier to deer. And so I figured that out when I was in my early teens, just from duck hunting. And then um, I would scout on some of these islands. I said, you know what? I mean, we keep hearing, seeing under, like, I had this 15-foot Lao, modified Lao with a boat with 9.9 Evinrude. I had these big fog lights on the front welded, and I could light up, a football field like a Christmas tree. I mean, it was really bright. It was like an airline headlight. And I could light up the stump fields 150 yards out in front of me. And we'd come around the bend, from between one island and the next, and you'd see sometimes eyes in the middle of the water as deer are swimming from one island to the next. I was like, gosh, there's something to this. So I would scout those islands, in the middle of the day when the birds would stop flying, and we'd find acorns on those islands, the size of strawberries, and
Right.
ag alder thickets that had highway like deer trails coming through. I was like, oh my God, this is obviously overlooked. And so it was time to, get a canoe. And what we would do during bow season, when I really got bit by the whitetail archery bug, is I'd go out and cross some of the big open water with my big 15-foot, Evinrude, and my John boat with the Evinrude, and I would take a poly rope and I would just drag the canoe behind it. And then after like a duck hunt in the morning, we'd take motorcycle chain and just chain the tree to, one of the islands, and then go jump shooting for wood ducks and stuff. And then when that action would subside, I'd bring the bow. And what I would do is I'd hide all my archery equipment underneath my decoy. So other duck hunters, when we passing by, like, they never knew I was into bow hunting. Everyone was out there either fishing, trapping, or waterfowl hunting. So we'd hide the big John boat and then slip onto the islands, and just go island hopping and still hunting. And that was not that productive because deer, I mean, they'd hear you coming from a mile away and they'd jump from island to the island. So I realized that, very quickly that we had to just, it would have to be a hanging hunt type situation. Yeah. And so I did that for many years, and I shot my first 150 plus deer on those islands. A buck I called Houdini. And that was awesome. I was after him for 3 years, saw him 4 times, and shot him at 7 yards. It was back in 2000. It's 25 years ago now. Just a tank of a deer, dressed out 210. Giant.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was an awesome deer. But I mean, it was an eye opener to be out there duck hunting, and then realizing over the years as I got older, the swampier, marshier, thicker type habitat, the better for deer. And most people think trapping, they think waterfowl. I'm thinking deer. I'm thinking find the high ground, find the food sources, and slip in there by way of water, either chest wader, hip boot, or boat. And you can find some of the most phenomenal deer hunting ever when you get away from, and you get away from the crowds really easily.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like the more people I've talked to, the more I've learned. If it's a good duck hunting area and there's hardwoods nearby, you can bet your ass there's going to be some big deer around it too. 100%. And not just that, just even talking to duck hunters around the area. If I know some guys with duck hunting, it's like super, super weird about talking to people. But if you find a welcoming duck hunter that is obsessed with duck hunting, most of them don't care about deer, and they'll give you some leads on some deer hunting every once in a while.
All in for waterfowl.
That's it. That's it. They're hooked on it. Very few people. I've got one good friend of mine that's into both, but I feel like it's always been that way. Like most of those guys are hardcore waterfowlers, and that's what they do. And they wouldn't mind helping you get on a good deer because they bump them left and right doing the same thing you did at night, and the deer just stare at them and they're like, oh my God, look at that thing. Because a lot of times when they're duck hunting, they're going back where nobody can walk, like you're getting way, way back. I mean, the odds of people back there are way slimmer. And let's be honest, but we both know less pressure is a lot easier deer to kill. So, so not only is it slick, but in my time hunting, public land or not, it doesn't matter if it's public. Unpressured deer are a lot easier to kill than highly pressured deer. So,
and even though it's open to the public, most people are inherently a little bit on the lazy side, Yeah. If you legitimately are, if you're being honest and you're tracking your steps and you walk in an actual legit 1 mile from a public parking spot, which is the vast minority of hunters will go in that distance. You see less boot tracks, less garbage. It gets thinner and thinner and thinner. And you can find giants within 50 yards of a paved road. That's more the exception than the rule. So if you can find those honey holes tucked away, away from human intrusion, then you're going to be in the chips. The night that I killed Houdini, it was interesting. It's just, and I'm not making this up. It's just a cool story. I want to write about it someday, But I made 3 mock scrapes the week before, and I picked out my tree. And when I slipped in with the canoe, where I put in was about 70 yards behind me. And I slipped in, wind in my face, had to wait for a west wind, and this buck was bedding in the tags, straight west of me. So with the west wind, I was walking in with the wind in my face. And as I was attaching my lone wolf climber, I just caught movement about 40 yards to my right. And I see this old timer in about a 14-foot wooden canoe. I guess you'd call it a canoe. I've never seen a boat like that before or since. And this guy's standing up, and he's got these push pole, 12 to 15-foot push pole with mallard duck bill, extension, like just kind of forks out, and he's pushing down into the mud. And he has a big white bucket in the back, and then one blue 5-gallon bucket in front of where he was standing. And the white bucket behind him was full of muskrat and beaver. It was just overflowing. He was a trapper, and he's pushing this 12 to 15-foot pole, and we lock eyes at the same time. And he sees me as I'm like doctoring this scrape, and my lone wolf is about 6 yards behind me, because the shot ended up being 7 yards, closer than what I wanted. But I'm doctoring the scrape, and this old timer is pushing, with the pole, and he's gliding by with no sound, and this boat's full of muskrat and beaver, right? And we lock eyes, and he sees me, he's like, "That's right." Doesn't say a word. I don't say hi. He doesn't say, and he knows I was bow hunting. He just gave me this, like the nod of approval as he's pushing himself by silently.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's right, buddy.
You wonder.
Don't tell anybody. And he's like, I'm not gonna, the power of the unspoken word. Like he was just thinking, like,
the old mountain man,
stays with me.
The old mountain man head nod.
And that night I shot him. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I guarantee you, he's seen that deer in there. He probably had to.
Sure, yeah.
Like coming in there silent like that. You know what? I really like that idea though. If like, especially around here, there's so many creek systems that I could probably get the kayak in, but I don't know how paddling would work because it's not that deep. So I may just go that route and try to get like a push pole or something like that. And I don't know.
That year, my good friend Keith, if you're listening to this later, after you posted, Keith, I won't say his last name. Keith was after that deer as well. He knew about that deer. And then there's a third person, a grad student from Madison, that would come up. Must have, I don't know, always hunted that way. Maybe saw that deer while fishing or duck hunt, whatever. And he knew about that buck too. So the three of us knew about this deer. And then it's pretty cool. It was in the paper.
That's awesome. Cool. May the best man win. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm really excited this year to get more creative with access, especially here in Iowa, because, I think the biggest thing that I've been focusing on lately, instead of boots on the ground, I feel like I just don't see quite as many deer like I'm imagining I would have seen when I moved out here. So to me, I'm trying to focus more time right now on what areas are difficult for people to access, difficult to park, and what kind of system am I going to use? My e-bike to get in? Am I going to use the kayak to get in? What am I going to do? And I'm really focusing and dropping special pins on those areas. And I'm trying to just get a net of 5 to 6 high odd locations. And then I'm going to go down and narrow down like the, top 5 to, and focus on them. I think that's my biggest goal. And I feel like from talking to some locals here that I've been very fortunate. I got a couple guys that I've been working with. One of them's an electrician that's a hardcore public land hunter. And he told me the same thing. He's like, dude, generally most of these guys are lazy. If you're going to go in and access like on a difficult area, you will evade the pressure and you'll end up killing, because 90% of these people don't know what they're doing. And he's like, oh, and this is coming from a guy who only uses a climber here. And I was shocked by that. I'm like, you like, really? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, dude, I was like, we have got to get you hooked up with a setup or something. I'm like, I could change your whole game. Like, I was like, how many times are you hunting and you find the location and you can't find a tree to put a stand in. It was like all the time. And I'm like, don't, well, there's your sign. I mean, I don't know what else you need to hear, but yeah, it was definitely like a good reassuring feeling that like, okay, I'm on to something. And I don't know. I don't know if it's better to hit a big parcel or a little parcel. Everybody talks about pressure, but then I've also heard from people that moved here from other states that the pressure here is not pressure like I'm used to being an East Coast guy. So, I don't even know I don't think I'm going to give anybody's thoughts on pressure until I see it for myself, because I've heard that from several guys. So
yeah, listen with your eyes. Before I moved to Kentucky, I practiced in Stamford, Connecticut.
Okay.
And that's pressure. Hunting 2-acre lots surrounded by 12 to 15 homes from every tree stand location, hearing traffic and people fighting in their kitchen, just in the backyard.
I'm familiar with that too.
It's a horrendous way to hunt and weird, right?
Right.
And then, so like there's that high end pressure. And then like every 5-acre woodlot has, 1 or 2 other people hunting because like there's nowhere else to go. And there's no gun hunting pressure, which is nice, but the soil is terrible. There's no ag, there's no food plots. You're hunting in people's backyards. It's weird. So there's that high end, awkward, type of suburban type setting. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you might hunt a 300 or 400 acre parcel that's public, somewhere in the middle of the Midwest, which would be considered small. And then you might bump into a few people throughout the season. And then you have like places like northern Wisconsin, Chequamegon or Nicolet National Forest, you're talking 2-3 million acres combined hunting land, where you can walk for 45 minutes in any direction. Some places not even see a telephone pole or gravel road. Okay, bear country, wolf country, right? And everything in between. When I lived in Davenport, Iowa, when I went to school for chiropractic, I hunted a piece of public that was 130, 40 acres on the north side of a river. Okay, and I had a 200-acre piece of private across the road on an island that was just literally 250 yards away. And where these people would park, there'd be no less than 4 to 6 cars at any given night, Monday through Sunday, on the weekends even more so, parked in this it was like a city park that ran parallel to a paved road. Right. And across that parking lot, there's a 130, 140 acre piece of public. But where the main river ran off to the east, there was a bifurcation, split, and there was a creek that ran parallel to the paved road, wrapped around, formed like this peninsula. And it was between 3 to 6 feet deep. But it was only like 10, 15, maybe 20 yards at the widest, wide. Right. People would fish in there for catfish and suckers and, panfish, that type of thing. And in 4 years of hunting that public, I ran into one person.
Yeah. Hunting, you mean?
Right. Hunting. For any turkey, deer, one person. And I could see people in the parking lot, and I saw more deer over 170 consistently in 4 years. Then, I mean, you wouldn't even believe the stories, and you wouldn't think in a million years that'd be the case. 100, it wasn't very big, close to a road, and it was public, but nobody wanted to cross that river, that creek,
right?
And it wasn't even deep, but it was deep enough where you couldn't get across with hip boots. So that's why people are like, oh, God, this is way too deep and mucky. Just like a wet peanut butter.
Oh, man. The dirt here is muck. It's like when it gets wet.
You didn't want to cross it. So, and when it was dry, you could get across in spots with a chest wader. But when there was rain, that's why I went back to home to Wisconsin during school breaks. I grabbed my canoe, my cheap Coleman. Yeah. And chain it to the backyard of this gentleman who owned the private across the road. And 75% of the time, I would hunt the public across the road because there was ag on that side. Okay. And I mean, it was unbelievable. And so, you're going to notice, I mean, there might be exceptions where every Tom, Dick, and Harry's out there. And that, but I doubt it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like in October, I should be in good shape. I might run into people here or there, but I'm just going to have to live and learn. It is what it is. I'll keep you posted. Yep. But I'm really excited, man. I think I'm on onto some good stuff, some really good stuff in a couple areas. So
I know you're doing your homework.
oh yeah. It's really it's different with having like, I feel like I had way more free time back in Kentucky owning my own business, but I almost got like used to this routine of hunting the same farms and like doing this and I got a little lazy as much effort as I'd put in and stuff. And I would constantly be out scouting and stuff like that. But I'm excited to get after it hardcore, but I'm getting a little bit off track. All right. This is supposed to be about entry routes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's my take on this. Public, you can get creative, right? And you can find these niche spots and do niche things to access, whether it's an e-bike or a mountain bike or a kayak. But you cannot manipulate the land like you can with a private land.
Right.
So that leads me to you and, your experience and your, forte of, doing the food plot stuff. Like, I did a little bit of it at my house, and it's a total different scheme of hunting 20 acres versus hunting a 200, 300 acre farm. So let's break down what makes a good access and exit. Like, what are some things? I mean, when you're able to slip in undetected and exit undetected, I feel like ideally that's what you're looking for. But maybe break down some like key points on what you believe like the foundation of entry and exit is.
So to paint with a broad brush, the 10,000 view, whatever you want to say, just keep it simple. Keep those mature deer in the dark. Not let them know that they're being hunted. So how do you do that? First of all, you have to, if the terrain is such where you can glass from a distance, then do the walking with your eyes. Use your spotting scope and your binos to do that. And over time, you'll develop a pattern. And then with that pattern, that development, you can pick apart and find weaknesses and find places where the wind is compromised. It's good for you, not dangerous or bad, necessarily bad for the deer, but they're compromised, right? So where that come, through a fence or around a bend, where at that moment, at that junction where it pinches down, and you've seen this from watching from a distance, and you'll be able to do that in Iowa quite a bit, because of the open terrain. But keeping them in the dark, and I love taking access routes that are difficult for me, and most people. Not impossible for the deer, but like they would just rather not take that route, right? Like
right.
A steep drainage, a rocky, really rocky, uneven ground, a drainage or a dried up creek bed. I love, one of my favorite ways to access a stand is the head of a drainage, but it's really steep and it has park-like late successional growth, high canopy, not suitable. There's no flat benches for deer to bed. So they'll travel near the bottom or they'll travel near the very extreme top of the ridge, but not really in the middle. That's
right.
the route that I'm going to take.
Okay.
Because although they can go up and down in, 15, 20 seconds, I mean, a 300 foot plus cliff, they can, but they would rather not. A 200 plus, 250 pound, 5, 6-year-old deer is a very athletic animal, but they tend to be complacent or lazy as they get older. They would rather not do that, even though they can. So that's the route that I'm going to take. Mucky, deep, thick cattail, clay-like, just inhospitable, briar-filled thickets that, deer like thick cover. They like to be close to, but not necessarily walk through the middle of that stuff. And you wouldn't either if you had a rack on your head, right? So close to, but not necessarily in the middle of it. But places that they would rather not, even though they can, but they would rather not travel to go from bed to feet, back to bed, okay? Those are the routes I like to take in general. And again, that's paint with a broad brush. On the farm where we're going to do the workshop, I'm going to show you an example of that. And you'll be like, okay, damn, now I know why he's taking the effort to climb up this hill. Because once I get to the base of the tree, I am downwind of a premier food plot.
Yeah.
And you'll see that,
Yeah, and your thermals, obviously.
100%.
But let's break it down even farther. Like, let's say somebody doesn't have terrain to work with. What would your, advice be for something like that? Are you going to plant, Egyptian wheat, or like, are you going to plant screening cover to hide your access? Is that like, another option if you don't have any hills or anything?
Yeah, I've got a farm. It's a permission-based farm. It's not too far from actually where we live. And the guy that owns the farm, the couple that owns it, they like to mow places that, I mean, from a wildlife perspective, habitat improvement perspective. I'm like, really? I mean, it's like I cringe, the bush hogging these fields when they can be left alone as native habitat for brooding habitat for turkeys and fawning habitat for deer, and then bedding habitat in the fall. And okay, what it is, what it is. But I've asked them to leave certain areas alone, okay, and just let it grow wild. And then I've cut openings in the middle or on the edges of those where the food plots that I've planted are situated, with wild grasses that grow on the outskirts and around the perimeter that act as natural screening cover.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Without having to plant switchgrass or giant miscanthus or something like that. You don't have to, but if you just simply get permission from the landowner, if it's permission-based property, to leave certain areas alone, even if it's 5 or 10% of the property, but you can leave it alone, let it just go, wild. You can box in your food sources, okay, your food plots, and then you can come and go as you see fit based on what the wind is doing.
Yeah, I got you. That makes a lot more sense. I mean, it was one of the hardest things that I dealt with where I was hunting in Kentucky, because a lot of times, the way the fields would lay out, like I'd only have one way in and I couldn't get creative. And I also couldn't manipulate it because the farmer wouldn't allow me to plant anything, and was very like, just, hey, you got to hunt the farm the way the farm is. So I started trying to figure out, like, my best entry and exit was sometimes inside of the corn, or, along, I'd try to slip in the woods without being detected, and walk like the, upper side of a ridge, or walk straight down into a bottom, depending on what's going on. And, I think a lot of people have a hard time with that, like just in the beginning stages of hunting, like figuring out where they should be, and, how to access properly. So, like, what do you feel like a lot of people's mistakes are when they're first, learning, the ins and outs of setting a stand in a specific spot? Are they hunting it too much? Or are they walking down the trail that the deer is going to come through? I mean, where do you feel like people
Yeah,
are making mistakes?
taking the same route multiple times, it's like it's the cardinal sin. You can't do that. Walking into a food source, be it a food plot, ag field, like commercial ag field or not, in the afternoon to get to a thicket of trees is easy, but getting out is almost impossible, right? So,
Right.
ignoring the fact that the exit is just as important, if not more important, because now you're running into a bunch of animals after dark.
Yeah.
Sometimes a person has to, if there's too many negative boxes checked, okay, the farmer won't let you plant. Okay, that's a negative. He won't let you use any route except the cow pasture. Okay, so you can't come in from the backside. It might be the better wind direction. Okay, you can't manipulate and block certain places along the fence line to encourage deer to travel and come through where you want them to. Okay, so he says no to that. Okay, I've been down that path. You can't put any food out. You can't plant. Sometimes you might as well just pick up, jump ship and just say, thanks for the opportunity, but just hunt somewhere else. Because if there's too many roadblocks in your way and you can't hunt the way you know that you need to,
mm-hmm.
you're making the already difficult pursuit of archery deer hunting more difficult than it has to be.
Right.
And sometimes you have to cut your losses and then pick another spot. I've had to do that a few times because there's just too much of an uphill battle. You're butting heads with the landowner.
Yeah.
I wants to bring his cousin, his son, his son's two best friends. I've had all those stories.
No, I get it. No, and I think that's important for some of you guys listening to hear, because I've been there and there's spots that I should have walked away from, but I kept trying to hunt them, and guess what? I never killed in those locations either. Yep. And it took me several years. Like, I've had opportunities and I've passed decent deer. But sometimes what you think versus the reality is, just something that comes with time deer hunting. And, that's why they call it living and learning. But I had a couple farms like that, that, either you hit it out of the park or you just don't. And you got to take something out of that. Like if you're hunting the wind right, you're doing everything that you can in your control. Sometimes I think some farms, the way they're laid out, a lot of these mature deer know exactly where to bed at to pick you off. And that's why you're not killing them. So there's something to be said for terrain and access. And that's why I really wanted to dive into this whole topic, because I think it's extremely important. When we think about like stand choice, I know for your situation, like you've got a little bit more opportunity to hunt the same stands, where I'm a little bit more mobile, and I kind of don't try to do that. I might hunt the same location, but like I try not to do it day after day unless I'm like in the rut or something along those lines. Why don't you dive into that like forte of how you've kind of picked some of these locations, and what is, I know we talked about the one with the hillside, but like other stand locations that, are good access that might not have the terrain in them, and why you're picking them. Obviously that's an open-ended question, but.
Well, I take the approach on almost every single farm I hunt, whether it be leased or permission or public, from the same. I look at it with the same lens, and that is I like to hunt from the outside in. So if I look at the middle, let's say I've got a 40-acre parcel. It's in the shape of a square, just to keep this example simple. And the best part of that farm is in the middle of this 40-acre chunk, right? Like the spokes of a wheel, I'm going to be approaching from different angles based on what the wind is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is permission based or leased, and I can do what I want, I might have 4 or 5 or 6 lone wolf stands hung in a 20-acre area that I hang in March.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll cut all the access trails and then the shooting lanes in March, maybe early April, right before turkey season. I won't come back until October 4th. So I hunt that area like a lot, quote a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm hunting multiple different stands, and there's several seasons where I'll have 12 to 15 stands hung, and there'll be 2 or 3 or 4 stands that I haven't sat in all year because
Right.
the conditions were perfect, but I was at work.
Yeah.
The conditions were terrible, and vice versa. So I had to move around, and then I also keep, of course, I've talked to you this before. I'll keep an extra. My go-to is a .75 is my mobile setup. I'll keep that in the garage so that if I need to be in this one section where I have already 4 stands hung, but like, man, I've been seeing this deer come out twice in the last 5 days from the northwest corner, but I don't have any stands set up. Like I'm going to go in there. I'm just going to
Right.
I'm going to put up my .7. I'm going to slip in and try to get it done. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's dynamite. And I mean, it sounds like a lot to me, like hearing that in like a little 20-acre piece, like having that many stands, but I do get it. I mean, like 20 acres is bigger than you think, and deer can figure out a way to funnel through an area and evade you.
And avoid your cameras.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think we both know that happened a lot this past season. So
Especially in
it's
the late season when it's really bitter cold and on a consistent food source and there's no pressure outside of yourself.
right.
There's no reason for him to go roaming 500, 600, 700 yards from his bedding area. Like he'll get up, go water, he'll go to that creek, he'll go to the food source, maybe a bean field or a standing cornfield that's left, and he'll turn around, he'll mill around, he'll bed down close to the outside edge of that food source, and then go back to the bed at dawn. He won't be traipsing around all over that farm, and you might have maybe half a dozen cameras in a 40-acre parcel, but like you need like 50 cameras in order to get his mugshot because he's not using any of the routes that your cameras are overlooking.
Right.
You know, so
yeah, man. No,
yeah.
I mean, they're good at that. I don't know. I would love to hear some scientific research on that exact topic, but that's for another day. So, what about mowing trails and stuff like that? You got CRP. Let's say we've got a CRP layout and you've got access through CRP, right? And it's on private. Will you go in and cut the trails and walk that to get to where you need to be at?
Okay, so hand to God, this is true. Tomorrow, I'm actually renting a zero-turn mower and trailer setup to go to the farm where actually we're going to have the workshop. And I'm going to mow that for the second and final time for the year. I'm going to mow it really, really low to the ground, so I don't have to go back. Now, the season opens up here in Kentucky September 6th, and it's not even August 1st yet. But we're having a 2-week stretch here where we're supposed to not get any rain, so it's not like the grass is going to pop up really quickly after I mow it. But I'll use those trails, not necessarily for walking down, but I'll use them for zipping around, check cameras, or during the actual hunting season with an e-bike. But those trails will be used for that purpose and that purpose only.
Yeah.
And I'll have a big trail on the outside perimeter of the entire farm, and then I'll have, like I said, like the spokes of a wheel, trails coming in towards the center from that outside perimeter trail that I'll zip in. I'll ride the perimeter trail with the e-bike, and I might come down a third or maybe halfway, down that spoke, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Lock up the bike and then just walk in the rest of the way. So it's just quick, it's quiet, there's no scent, and I can zip in, zip out. Otherwise, I'm traipsing through the farm and just laying down scent during my ingress and my egress, and it's just pretty silly. So if you do have access and you listen and to an e-bike or you're thinking about getting one, it has been a game changer.
I was going to ask. All right. So, how much has the e-bike changed the way you hunt, especially on private farms? Because it changed my hunting tremendously, and I'm also interested. I want you to answer this, and then I'm going to respond with something.
First of all, it's just flat out fun to zip around quick. I mean, there's places that I can get to, and I've put cameras up on this. I'm thinking it's one property west of town here, where I've got cameras positioned on ag fields that the farmer lets me walk to, but I can't drive with the truck.
Okay.
So I was not lazy, but kind of, a little complacent. We'll say I'll be kind to myself.
It's very easy to get lazy having an e-bike. It really is.
Well, where I was going with that was like complacent from the sense that instead of walking across a 700-yard distance, literally from one end of the entrance to the property in that section of the property, to setting up cameras and then walking back, especially when the beans get tall. Now I'm leaving scent. I'm sweating in the summer. But around the outside perimeter, now it's like, oh my God. Now that I've got a quiet cat, right? I can zip all the way around. I can check those cameras 10 times faster,
right?
Not laying down scent. And it's just fun. Even in the heat of the day, you stay cool because you're moving.
Yeah, you're blazing. Yeah, 15, 20 mile an hour. Nice.
Yeah, I mean, you're cruising.
Cool the sweat down a little bit.
Yeah, and with the pouches, on the side, you can carry a lot of cameras, extra batteries, your snacks, your water, mineral lick, mineral block or whatever. You can carry so many things.
Yeah,
it's just fun, but it's very efficient.
Yeah,
and time is money, and efficient is the name of the game.
Yeah.
So it's been a game changer for me.
Yeah. So I recently, I guess it was a couple months ago, I had Steve Pinkston on. Do you know who he is?
Oh, he takes amazing time.
Yeah. Oh, he's just an amazing guy. I love Steve, honestly. I hope he's listening to this. But no, one of my favorite people. But I asked Steve how he uses his e-bikes to hunt. And surprisingly, Steve will ride his e-bike to the base of his tree and let it sit there.
Yep.
And he said he grooms his farms where he can do that, where he can ride his e-bike right in. And very rarely does it booger the deer. And he's killed many deer close to him, So,
oh, I'm sorry.
No. I was just curious, if you feel like now having the e-bike, can you go on these trails that the deer is going to use and not be picked off? Because I don't think they relate it to us. It's way better than us walking. And that's what Steve's mantra was to it also.
Yeah, 100%. So on the workshop farm, this stand where I put my dad in, and he killed Thanos, scored 160.
Yeah.
2 hours of daylight.
God.
I hunted the week before, and with the quiet cat, I was able to zip in all the way down towards the Kentucky River, run parallel along the field edge, and then there's a big big old mock scrape that I have with licking vine within about 21 yards of the base of the black cherry tree where my lone wolf stand is hung. Well, when I come along the river and I turn right, I get to the scrape and I turn right and I go about 18 yards off the trail, so about 3 yards shy of the scrape to my left. I turn to the right and I go just enough of a hump where it drops off. And then at the base of the tree, it drops off another 35 feet to the river, but it's just a subtle hump where when I lay down that bike, any deer coming down this old logging road that goes right past my mock scrape cannot see my bike. So I lay it down, and the week before Dad came out and he shot Thanos, I had, in one morning, I filmed 3 deer over 150. Including a buck I call Funky. It was like an 8x5. I got the video footage. It was on the show that aired just last week.
Plug that real quick because Sean just had an episode. He joined Team 200 this year, and it just aired last week, was it?
Yeah, last week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on the Pursuit channel. Pretty cool. It came out awesome. Dave Boise's the editor for all that, and he just works his magic.
Yeah.
It came out amazing. He did a phenomenal job. I'm blown away. But on that hunt, I had 3 deer over 150 and one in like the 130 range, within 30 yards of that stand, and not a single one had a clue that I came through there because there was no scent up until I got within about 15 yards of the tree, turned 90 degrees off the natural route that the deer travel to go through there past my scrape, and then just laid the bike down and climb up in the stand. And my scent stream, because the sun doesn't come up until about 9:45 in that stand. And even if you have a prevailing wind that's going from south to north, it doesn't matter because until it picks up, those thermals are still dropping down, going past my face and then down towards the river. It's an example of an ultimate pinch point that's bulletproof. And I'm using the e-bike to get to that stand.
Yeah.
Right to the stand.
Right. Every time.
Yep.
It's awesome, man. I mean, I have had negative effects too. I've also laid it down and walked 200-300 yards to my stand and had deer come out and blow up my bike and ruin a hunt. So that was kind of like mid-season last year. So it was kind of a learning curve with using it and like what places to put, how to do it, how to lay it down, not, do this versus that. So just like everything, you got a little learning curve to it. But is there anything you think we're missing on covering like entry and exit? I mean, we've talked a lot about entry, but exit is another big thing. And to shine a little bit of light on the e-bike, believe it or not, I've had better luck coming out of the woods with my headlight on versus not having it on.
Trying to be sneaky. Yeah.
No, trying to not be sneaky.
Right. Versus trying to be sneaky. Yeah.
Right. I got blown at way more having my headlamp off or my light off. When I put that light on, they just looked at me like kind of a farm equipment, and you can drive right by them and they'll just act like you're, oh, you can't see me.
Yeah, I agree. So. Because it doesn't pose a threat. They know that that's a human activity, but as long as, just like with turkeys, you're driving by past, a field and people see them all the time. But the moment you stop and get out of that truck, they putt and they're gone.
Right.
The deer, like as long as you're moving, and you're not making much noise, you just kind of hum. It's a subtle hum as you go by, and you're not touching the ground. They're going to come back through that area after you pass, and more than likely, but they're not going to smell you because you're not touching the ground. You're on the bike, so it's a win-win.
What do you think about like with the exit? Like, would you take the same trail every time if you're gonna exit?
No, like in that.
I mean, it's situational, but I mean, in the hillside situation, I mean, I would. I mean, that's kind of a fail-proof plan.
It is, and you'll know exactly, like just personally, like you're going to see that, and you know what I'm talking about. But sometimes you have to come in one way and then leave another way because to go back the way you came is the direction where the deer are headed, like for an afternoon food source, and you don't want to bust in.
Right.
On e-bike or not, like you don't.
Especially, early and late season, man. I mean, it's really tough. Like you can go in and there's no deer, but you're walking out and like there's a field full of deer. So, and like for me, I've had a lot of issues where I don't want to use a headlamp. And honestly, if I go walk through the woods instead of that field edge, I'm making a shitload more noise and I'm going to bump a lot more deer. So it's kind of a catch-22. I mean, I think if you're on a private farm and you are able to have the old lady or a friend pick you up on a side by side or a pickup truck or a tractor, that's always the best.
That's
But
golden.
if you can't do that, like what's your take on what guys should do?
So if I can't do that, then I will take, again, the steepest, muddiest, or rockiest route possible where I can leapfrog from rock to rock and be uber quiet. So I'm not touching any or very minimal amount of grass on the way out.
Okay.
And that way I will put my headlamp on. I'll have it on red.
I was going to ask. That was my next question. What have you favored over the years, red or green?
I use red. Yep.
Okay.
And I actually don't do that on the e-bike because you have your display and it's bright as heck, and so like it actually blinds you. Yeah. So I will use it on either green or white. Yeah. When I'm entering in the dark, right in the morning, right. For example, or leaving in the afternoon when it's dark. But when I'm walking,
I started covering mine up with a little piece of cardboard and electric tape.
It blinds you, and it's actually dangerous, so you have to cover it up. Yeah. I wish they had a dimmer switch on that.
I know it's coming. Somebody's definitely thinking about that. They should.
Come on, guys. Come on.
Yeah, but hey, you take them for what they are. But no, I think that's great, man. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, guys. Like you can't dwell on it. That's just, I think that's a great. That's the difference between the private land and the public land thing too. It's like, okay, if you're hunting public, you're more mobile. You're not going to be hunting the same location, or at least I hope you're not hunting the same location over and over on public land. But I kind of throw it to the wind every once in a while on public. It depends on the situation and what's going on. But I seem to care less.
And you have enough acres where you can just move over 40 acres. Right. But if you're hunting 40 acres, private land hunting, and Jeff Sturgis talks about this all the time, and I completely agree. I don't agree with everything he says, but I agree with this point. It's wholeheartedly. Private property can be exponentially more difficult to hunt than public.
Yeah.
Because if you have 5,000 acres of public and you bump into somebody or you overhunt a bedding area and you push that envelope too much, and the deer moves, to the north, and that's his travel route, and like it's now become a bubble of it's like a desert. Like, okay, there's no activity, and you kind of burnt down the area. It's time to move on. You can do that if you're only hunting 47-acre private farm.
Yeah, it's a lot more difficult,
right?
Yeah, that's really where it shines the importance, I believe, on public or on private land, that you need to have more of a mission mindset than just willy nilly. I'm going to go hunt. I think if you're really trying to kill a big deer or the biggest deer on the farm, you really need to be strategic in your timing and location of what you're doing. I fall short of that several times, especially hunting a lease. But
there's no shortcuts, and you have to plan. You can't plan 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks ahead of the season. I do almost all of my scouting in January through March because you can see the lay of the land, you can see last year's deer sign, and I'm planning and hanging stands and prepping. By the time turkey season's done, I'm done with 90% of the strategy based on what I saw in person and on trail cameras, what I saw while filming with the drone, like all of it. You put all the pieces together, and then you have that history, and you can plan, because deer are habitual. They're going to do the same or very similar things, year to year, as long as you don't screw it up. And because you can plan, you have that luxury. You have to do that. It's almost like cheating. When you have 9 months before the season and you're getting everything ready based on what you experienced the year before, as long as you don't repeat the same mistakes, I mean, you're golden. You're going to be fine, but you have to plan. And the best time to do that is in the postseason. And I understand hunting season is a marathon. It's mentally, financially, and physically draining, okay? And the last thing you want to do is, I'm going to go out and do some more scouting, like in February 10th, right? But that's when...
That's really,
it's huge.
That's when it seals the deal for me, especially. I mean, you get to really not worry about anything. Your brain's not too concerned with bumping deer, and you're like, all right, you get to figure your places out, It's kind of hard to do that in the summer. And that's another reason why I think this year, especially, I'm going to just do my best to hunt fresh sign, and that's it. And I'll just, whether I hunt that evening or not, I'm going to look at my hunting as a scouting mission and go off of my spotty senses, if you want to call it that. But all right, let's let's get into, about the workshop and what, hopefully we got some guys here listening. It is going to be August 9th and 10th. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really excited about it. We have got, honestly, like it was just me and Sean, but now we've got a lineup of highly, highly educated and seasoned killers. And I mean, if you're looking to set up a private piece of property, I don't think you could come to a better event. Or public. I'm gonna have. I think this is gonna be a really cool workshop. That's a little bit different than a lot of other stuff you get, because you're gonna get to see me and Sean not agree on everything, because we do hunt two different styles. I'm gonna agree with stuff Sean's saying, obviously, but not everything. So I'm gonna challenge him a little bit, because we have different styles of hunting, and I want you guys to be able to see, that there's more than one way to skin a cat, but you're going to walk away with so much knowledge, and the information shared at this is going to be next to nothing. I'm super, super stoked to be a part of it. But I mean, why don't you kick it off and get into what you're the most excited about with this event?
Well, there's a lot of different types of guys out there doing a lot of different kinds of workshops, and in different states. And the thing is, that I found frustrating with some of the workshops I've attended personally is that, for those that are like, PowerPoint presentations, or people are in a hunting lodge or a hotel and they're talking about theory and examples and sharing stories, and that's all great. Some people are tactile; they need touch to learn. Some people are visual, some people are auditory. But when you combine visual, auditory, and tactile, you're going to really commit what you learn to long-term memory more effectively, I think.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of a risk to have a bunch of guys traipsing through a big farm that I'm hunting the month before season, but it's still, it'll be early August, and on this particular farm, I see the highest number and the largest number of mature bucks kicking in about the 10th, 12th, 15th of September. Yeah. And I've confirmed that from what I've seen on trail camera. So I'm totally fine with that. And I don't care. I want to share with people what a farm is completely turnkey ready that looks like, and not talking about in theory or in some classroom or PowerPoint, but like in person, walking every piece of the property, where the cameras are positioned, where the food plots are positioned, what's planted in the food plots, why are they planted that way, what are the routes that I use to access those stands, what wind direction, what barometer, what temperature. Okay, like why did I hunt that particular stand when I filmed this particular deer out of this stand on that date, right? Now I feel like you're going to learn a lot from that, because now the person from Indiana who comes can say, I've got, my uncle owns a property that looks very similar to this, and I'm going to try that approach because I've never thought of it that way, right? And if you're listening to a podcast like this one, I mean, I love podcasts. They're fun to be on. They're fun to listen to. It's like, it's my own, it's my own heroin. I'm addicted to it. I got to have podcasts. I love it. But like, I need to see in person the example of what Joe Blow is talking about. Me personally, I'm a visual guy, right? Mm-hmm. And so by walking around and answering questions and sharing stories, but giving specific examples in person of what that looks like, that's different than what I've personally experienced on a different the workshops that I've personally attended.
Yeah. Most workshops are not as much hands-on. Yeah. And I mean, we've had several, obviously I've been a speaker at the Mobile Hunter Roadshow for several years, and it's great to look at maps and it's great to answer questions and pick stuff apart. But I don't think there's any substitute for visually showing somebody and then answering their questions directly on what, why, and where. Right. So I think there's that. I think there's also, I don't want to give away anything that we're doing, but there's going to be a lot of great visuals for you guys that are going to be really educational with scent and, how scent operates. I know for myself personally, when I started focusing on that, that's exactly when I started killing big deer. I think it's kind of an obvious thing nowadays. If you're really into hunting, obviously, understand like how to hunt wind directions, but I don't think enough people understand thermals and why they're setting up in locations for thermal pull. And I think that's going to be a huge thing. Also scrapes, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah. Watching weather.com or any of the hunting apps is is a great place to start as a springboard to jump off from, But when you get to the actual property, you pull on, you park the truck, and you decide, okay, of the multiple stand locations that I have, should I go to this stand on the northwest corner if I'm having a southeast wind? Well, you might be able to, because when you actually get there, get up in 22 feet up in the tree, you might realize the terrain in that location, even though prevailing wind says southeast, and on paper that doesn't sound like a good idea because just north of you is a food plot.
Right.
But because of the way the terrain lays out, the wind is not actually doing what it says on weather.com, and you don't know that until you hunt that stand long enough with those wind directions to know that you're screwing up that hunt.
Yeah.
And there's ways we're going to demonstrate that, of course.
Yeah. We've also got a ton of experience with, sharing, our scrape tactics. I know we both share some stuff that we do similar. We do stuff differently. So it'll be really interesting to do that. Another huge thing is having Eric there from Whitetail Habit. Is that what it is?
Oh, no.
I apologize, Eric, if you're listening.
Ryan from Epic.
Is it Ryan?
Ryan,
Epic,
yeah.
Okay, it's Ryan.
Yeah, so Ryan's coming down from Wisconsin. Ryan is going to talk about screen cover, tree planting, hinge cutting, TSI work, and he does a lot of that with his clients up in the upper Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Northern Illinois. He's a maestro with chainsaws. So he didn't talk about that. If you own a property, you can do what you want, carte blanche. If you lease it and you have the ability to manipulate the habitat, you're going to want to take notes when Ryan's talking about.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm really, really looking forward to that. Honestly, just personally, I've always wanted to go to a class on something like that. So it's an honor for me to be there and listen to him talk too. So what else? Is there anything else that we're missing? I mean, obviously, we're going to get into like trail cams and why and what.
We're going to talk about mindset, goal setting, writing, keeping a journal, thermals, wind direction, of course, decoy use, rattling, whether or not you should hunt morning or afternoons. We'll talk about access, of course, which is huge, food plots. I'm going to provide donuts and coffee both days, along with sandwiches both days. And then on Sunday, I'm going to put everyone's name in a hat. I'm going to draw and give away a free lone wolf stand, which is nice.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man. I'm really looking forward to it, brother. I can't wait to see you. I guess we're going to wrap this one up. I've got some rapid fire questions for you. All right. Okay. So, I've never really asked you, like, what's one of your favorite songs to listen to when you're heading to the woods? If you're going in to kill, you're excited. What are you jamming to?
I'm on a highway to hell. Okay. I'm a big Kings of Leon fan. I listen to Kings of Leon. Oh, I love Kings of Leon. Okay. It puts me in this, like, chill vibe. I mean, I don't think they have a bad song, but I mean, I like Kings of Leon. It calms me down before I hit the woods. My mind thinking clear. Yeah.
All right. Favorite broadhead of all time?
Oh man. Well, being on Team 200, we're sponsored actually by Radical Archery Broadhead, and the broadhead that I personally choose is the 3-blade 100-grain Madman. And for 30 years plus, I used the Muzzy 3-blade 100-grain, and I punched through and killed more deer with that. And it flies like a field tip, just like the Muzzy.
Yeah.
With my bow setup, and that's my go-to. Yeah.
Okay. Dream hunt of all dream hunts, anywhere in the world.
Ooh. I have to say a bow hunt in Kansas or
a bow hunt in Kansas? Really?
Or Northeast Iowa. Yep.
Come on, man. You can do better than that. What? Really? Just whitetail? Never like a red stag in Argentina or?
Nope, I'm a whitetail guy. I mean,
you are. You're hardcore.
I like whitetail, man. Yeah, there's nothing better than knowing about a deer and having like a 2 or 3 year history with a big 200+ pound, 5-6 year old deer.
Yeah.
And then put an arrow in it. It's like.
Just as an example to tell you about Sean. So I killed my elk and he's like, well, yeah, man, but you're like, I mean, elk are stupid. I mean, like, you did. You're like, well, anybody could kill an elk. I mean, but not everybody can kill a 200-inch whitetail, right? I mean, it's like, oh, I'd much rather kill a big whitetail. And I'm like, I don't know. For me, ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to arrow an elk. So it was like, I don't know, the pinnacle.
Cool. I think it'd be cool. I just knowing that a whitetail can get to like.
Well, maybe I said it wrong. I think you said whitetail are the smartest. I may have just exaggerated there a little bit, but
I mean, but to know that, I mean, you can get a deer to grow 180, 190, 200 inches, and live in a suburban setting in New Jersey, and then also be of the same proportions in West Central Kansas or Nebraska is mind blowing.
Yeah.
But there's only certain specific target niche types of habitat that an elk or a mule deer
right.
or a mountain goat or a grizzly can live in. And outside of that, they just can't live. But whitetail can thrive in so many different, settings. I have mad respect for that animal, and yet he can still fool us, right?
Oh yeah, most of the time. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, man. No, I really appreciate you. Can't wait to see you here in a couple of weeks. What do we got? 2 weeks. I'll see you.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah, getting close. Yeah. Getting close. Guys, if you're interested in the event, you can either message me or Sean. I would say message Sean. We've only got a few spots left. So I want you guys, if you're really interested, holler at us. We didn't want to have too many people at this event. We wanted to keep it, so everybody can kind of feel like it's a personal experience. And I
can take up to maybe 5 more, and that's it. I don't really want it to be that big.
Really. Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. So we hope to see you there. And thanks again, Sean. If you guys are not following Sean, make sure you check him out on Instagram. What is your handle? And then I guess where else can
people my Instagram is just, Shan Twit. And then my YouTube channel is Mature Whitetail Strategies. And then my website is maturewhitetailstrategies.com. So,
yep. And make sure if you got TV, what is it on Pursuit Channel?
It's on the Pursuit Channel, and after all the guys on the team have had their episode air, I think Dave's going to be able to put it on Waypoint TV and YouTube at the end of this is the 12th season. So at the end of the season, all the episodes air, I'll be able to share it with friends. So
yeah. But hey, if you got it, hopefully you guys go check it out. I can't wait to see it. But yeah, we'll catch up with y'all next week. I appreciate y'all tuning in.